Hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. This is your boy, Keo Sterone Beatmaker. And welcome to this episode of Lounge Ronin, where we will be discussing the concave hollow earth theory. So, Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Happy Schwanza. Shout out to Miss Nancy Cocktail Pelosi. But yeah, I've been meaning to stream, but I've just been vibing out and just chilling. Hope everyone's having a good holiday. Hope you guys got the treats and gifts you were looking for. I know it's been tough, but if you have family and friends to be with, that's the most important gift. So I hope everyone remembers that and doesn't take it for granted, because it's really tough out there for everybody. And I hope everyone is being mindful about that. Because I know I am. Be the best you can, especially during these tough holiday times. But if you didn't catch my last live stream, I was talking about pyramids, and I was going to do some more about that, but I decided not to, because I wanted to prepare a little bit more for it than I did last time. Hold on one quick second. I am back. I hope everyone is doing well and staying positive as best as they can. And I hope they're staying warm. Please, if you can, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe if you're hearing this during the replay after the live. But yeah, I decided to take a break from the pyramids because, like I said, I wanted to. I had a little theory that I thought maybe I could share. See if anyone else has caught on to it. But yeah, what can I say? So I decided I would focus on getting that together, since it did a pretty decent job of getting prepared for this one. But yeah, how many of you have ever heard of this wild theory? It's funny, I was last night during Christmas dinner, I was talking with my mom's friend, and I'll put that in quotation marks. And I was telling him about how the moon landing could have been staged, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. Oh man, it was funny. But this is just fun, you know, just interesting topics because I think as the world keeps on getting more and more interesting as the veil continues to get lifted, you're going to you're gonna see, you know, more discussions like these be brought up, and more weird evidence or anecdotal evidence that's being revealed, or evidence. Look at you know Graham Hancock's show on Netflix, Ancient Apocalypse. I mean, they're trying to, like, get that show canceled. He can't even go to Egypt anymore. They banned the man from going to Egypt. Right? I don't know how many people in this world have been banned from being allowed to go to countries. Right? I know David Icke has been banned from a couple countries in Europe. But it's like, and they banned him just before or after the release of this show on Netflix. So if you are a critical thinking person, you would see something like that and be like, well, obviously there must be some merit of truth to what he's talking about if they're going to go to such an extent. I mean, even there's a place here in the U.S., Serpent Mound, that he was banned from even stepping foot on. So they had to use drones when they found out who he was. It's like, so what are they hiding? Why can't he speak there? Why can't he go there? And I think that's something that, if you're a critical thinking person, you'd be like, well, yeah, why? Let me look into this. Let me look into that man. Um, and I've always been kind of fascinated with the concave. Well, actually, I've always found the hollow Earth theory very interesting. I'm not really. I'm not one for the flat Earth. There's some cool, you know, presentations and things out there, but I'm not really into that. I'm more into the whole. I think there's more plausibility and evidence for the Earth being hollow, in the sense, than there is for um, the planet being flat. But that's just my personal opinion, and everything that will be discussed here is just all speculation and fun discussion. And even though there is some anecdotal evidence and there is some, interesting photographic evidence, I always kind of like to joke around in the sense that, it's all true and it's not true all at the exact same time. So, whether you believe in, a bearded white dude up in the clouds, or whether you believe we're in a simulation, whatever it is, it could all be true and not true at the exact same time, because we really don't know. And it doesn't matter whether you're someone who believes in science or, believes in God. It doesn't really matter. Um, because in the end, um, we won't really know until we're on the other side, or the veil gets fully lifted. And even then, who's to say people will even believe what's in front of them? Because even now, people are struggling to believe what's in front of them. And most people prefer the false reality over the essential reality. And there's not much you can do about those individuals, other than just, stay forward, move forward. And you can't, and this is just me personally, but I'm done like telling people or like reaching out and being like, huh, see, told you I was right, told you. Like, I'm done doing that stuff. Like, I'm done like trying to reach out, like, hey, be careful about this, or you should really do your research on that. I'm done because there's no point anymore. And it's not because I think less or anything like that. It's just like it keeps coming out so much, and even when you know it's when people are who are shouting from the rooftops are finally vindicated. What's the point of getting back up there and yelling "I told you so"? I'm more of the idea of just like, at this point, just move on. There's no point. You know, we're what, 3 years in, 2.5 years into all this craziness. Um, I think it's better that we just let bygones be bygones. I guess I don't know. Depends on where you are in life and what your mindset is. But I'm done of being the "I told you so" guy. I'm now at the point of, hey, it's all on you. Let you sort it out for yourself. Because I'm not doing that anymore. So, on to what we're going to discuss for today's topic, the concave hollow earth theory. Now, um, there are like. Now, the only reason why I'm calling it the concave hollow earth theory is because the slideshow. Yes, I did a slideshow. Look at me getting all fancy. Well, anyways, the website that I selected, I kind of liked how they merged the two ideas together because I've heard of the hollow earth theory, but I've recently heard about the concave theory, and I was like, huh, this seems kind of interesting. What's this all about? Um, and so essentially, if you've ever seen or held a golf ball, uh, essentially, if you look at all the indentations within those with on a golf ball, um, you think of that as one. You look at one little concave on the golf ball, and that's Earth. That's our domain. And then on another little concave on the golf ball, that's another domain, so to speak. So that's what the whole concave Earth theory is, and it kind of ties into the ice wall. Shout out to Canon Hotep for his discussion on that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to first focus on the concave Earth theory. So let's jump into this presentation. Ahem, ahem, ahem. Okay, so let me have a sip. Wet the whistle. All right. Oh, shoot. I forgot this thing moves on its own. Because it's fancy. Alrighty, here we go. This hypothesis was first conceptualized in the cellular cosmology of Cyrus R. Teed, founder of the Khorasan Religion Society, established in 1886. He stated that the Earth is concave, curving upward. Thus, we are on the inside of a hollow sphere. All the stars and planets are illusions due to refraction of curving light in the atmosphere of which itself is illusionary in the general appearance of its shape. Only one half of the sun radiates light. It rotates on an axis at the center of the hollow cell, and we only ever see a focalized projection of it through multiple layers of the atmosphere. According to this cosmology was revealed to Ted during a visionary experience in which a female angel showed him the true nature of the cosmos, where the heavens revolve inside the hollow cell of the earth. And above, I believe, is the title of his book. Yeah. Cellular cosmology. And then this on the bottom is a diagram of cellular cosmology. So I think now there's a lot there to digest. And I briefly skimmed through it, but one thing I think is funny, right, is how he's talking about how the all the stars and planets are illusions due to refraction of the curving light in the atmosphere, of which itself is illusory in the general appearance of its shape. So here's something I think is kind of interesting about that, right? So if that's the case, then like, how would you explain shooting stars or comets? Because I've seen comets before. A couple of months ago, I saw one burn up in the atmosphere. So then, what are those? So I would push back a little bit, because I know that there, when it comes to the whole concave Earth theory, and he's talking about, it's that the atmosphere is an illusion. Then it kind of ties into the whole Van radiation belt, and like, can we actually get past the Van radiation belt? There's all these interesting videos of like of rockets hitting something, and even, man, I wish I just thought about this, but shout out to Dave at Generation Z. He was recently, I think he was on the Tinfoil Hat podcast, and he talked about an explorer or a researcher who took a hot air balloon, and he claimed in his findings in his journals that he hit something all the way at the top. So, with the whole kind of concave Earth theory and the hollow Earth, is like, okay, well then, it ties into the whole ice wall. That there's like this giant wall all around our entire domain of Earth, of where we exist. Think of it kind of like, if you've ever seen The Truman Show. And spoiler alert, because it's a Jim Carrey movie, and it's an old one. It's an old film, but even though it's a spoiler, honestly, it's still worth the watch for the psychological aspect of it. Because I'll be honest with you, you'll completely forget about the spoiler once you get into the film. So essentially, like, he gets into this boat he starts realizing that the world that he's in is like, it's like not real. Something's not right about it. So he tries to escape, and they keep on trying to sabotage his chances of finding out the reality. So eventually he takes a boat and they, this is what's funny though, they end up turning on the weather to make a storm, to make it impossible for him to reach the other side. And he reaches the other side, and it ends up being a wall. And the wall is painted to kind of look like the far distant off, blue sky and blue ocean, when he was just like, a couple miles off the shore. It's fascinating, but it kind of ties into that kind of whole idea of us being in, almost like an illusion. Now, keep in mind, remember, we're just having fun. These are interesting ideas to, discuss and talk about, even if there is, some interesting evidence behind it. And, I'll show you some interesting stuff. Whether or not you believe it doesn't really matter. It's just cool stuff. It's just interesting to talk about. And I don't know. That's interesting to me. So, next slide. Inversion geometry. In 1981, Mustafa Abdelkader, an Egyptian mathematician from Alexandria, reviewed and expanded upon Carl E. Newport's Cosmos revision of Cyrus ideas from the year 1900. Unlike Cyrus's model, which considered the heavenly bodies entirely as optical illusions, Newport's model inverts the entire known cosmos into a concave model, stating that space shrinks, implodes via look at this one, Euclidean geometry, so as to fit an entire Copernican cosmos. I'm sorry if I'm chopping up these words terribly. A Copernican cosmos into the comparatively finite boundary envelope of geocosmos, concave surface. In this paper, submitted to the Australian Science Journal, Speculations in Science and Technology in 1981, which then gave a serious peer review of his full hypothesis in its 6th-volume edition in 1983. Abdelkar says, the enormous galaxies and other remote objects are mapped inside a microscopic objects, and our moon as by far the largest of the celestial objects, all of which revolve daily around the Earth's axis. Straight rays of light are mapped as arcs of circle, so that all celestial phenomenon appear to inside observers in G just as they do outside observers in C. We next consider the hypothesis. Conversely, our actual universe is this finite G. This idea entails the inversion of all known geoastrophysics. Okay, so this is the okay, actually we'll get back to that because they talk about that. So the main addition to Newport's concept with Abdelkadar's address is that the light is eventually pulled toward the center of the cosmos, which shrinks inward. The arcs of light which travel toward the surface of the Earth are absorbed, and those that are not and those that are not continue traveling toward the center of the cosmos as well as around it to the opposite side of the heavens than the sun. However, they never illuminate to the other side of the earth. It's night sky because the wavelengths of light flow in accordance with the volume of space beyond the earth's surface and are also subject to black hole like inertia of the cosmos infinitesimal center. Thus, as a coverage toward the opposite position of the heavens to where the sun is, they are simultaneously pulled toward the center. Therefore, the light which circles round to the opposite side of the heavens never meets the sight of those who have the center of the cosmos between them and the sun. Therefore, an observer on the surface will experience night without a luminous sky, even though rays of light are actually traversing the space they look out into. This being because the rays are only in space and thus are never received directly into the eye. For those FS formula explorers who are limited in English terminology, geology is the study of the shape of the earth and its properties, and in some sense its relation to the rest of the cosmos. Hence the name Geocosmos, as the model in the earth is the boundary of the cosmos. Okay, so that's Abdel Kadar's concave earth. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So I know you can't see my scroller, but I'm sure you guys can see the little fella in Italy. You see Mario. If you see the little fella in Italy, so what he is saying is that from what my brain was able to translate is that everything is pulled towards the earth. So it almost seems like the way I'm interpreting it is that he's saying that the earth is the center, or no, he's saying that the everything is pulling towards the center of the cosmos. And so what we're seeing is everything being pulled towards the center of the cosmos. That's how I'm interpreting. Or he's saying that what's that say on the top? Experimental increase of the distance. So hold on. I forgot. There's a little bottom part here we can read. Abdel Kadar devised an equation that suggests the phenomenon belonging to the perception of the sky dome and horizon line. Okay, all right. And subject to optical illusion, supporting his statement that light bends in wide arcs through space, rather than traveling in straight paths. As such, when we believe we are looking at a luminous astrological object perpendicular to our line of sight, what we are seeing actually lies on the other end of a bent ray of light. Thus, one's line of sight is really pointing at nothing, and their eyes are receiving an image of something that is at a position in the sky elsewhere to the direction they are truly looking. This arcing nature of light, therefore, would attribute illusion of the perception of the phenomenon in the sky and space. However, it is not just the light alone that produces this illusion, but also the magnetic field of Earth and gravity, which causes the light to behave extraordinarily. Double refraction and ray focalization of light was the explanation Teed offered for the sky dome illusion. Ted's model, however, theorized a stationary sun, with which he attributed the bizarre notion that it were really a focalized point of light emanating from a rotating luminous double helix at the center of the cosmos. Whoa. Abdelkader's model, on the other hand, requires more elaboration as it entertains an orbiting sun rather than a stationary sun. Yeah, his model is a little bit more elaborate and a little more too elaborate for my taste at times. But I kind of get, like, it's kind of interesting because whether you look at it as the sun being stationary or you look at it as that, the sun is a rotating luminous double helix at the center of the cosmos. I'm you look at a lot of the similarities, and a lot of the symbolisms with the double helix, and I can't spell right now. Double helix. Oh, wait, is that? Hold on. Is that what it said? The double helix? A rotating luminous double helix at the center of the cosmos. Okay, so the double helix, that's kind of like the DNA. I think most people you can visualize like the classic DNA strand that's spinning. So I think he's saying that that the that the sun is. That's why when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, this is very sciencey, but like, hold on, please, someone translate it a little bit for me. That's an interesting idea. Um, I'm a very visualizing type of person, so I like to kind of visualize what I'm, talking about or what I'm reading. So I'm trying to visualize a rotating luminous double helix sun. And I guess if that was at the center of the cosmos, right? Then what we're seeing if we're looking at the sun would be, in my mind, the bottom part of this double helix. That's just how I would envision it. Let me get a picture up of a double helix. But that's just how like my brain would interpret it. That's a simple, good enough photo. Anything too wild? Okay. Where am I going? Here we are. Okay. 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 So you should see the double helix. There. Okay. So the way, if you see the helix up on the screen right now, on your screen, the way I'm interpreting it is that if you look at the bottom part of the helix, I'm assuming that is what we, as observers of the sun, are seeing. We're not seeing the long part. We're not seeing the wide part of if it was a luminous double helix. I like that, luminous double helix. If that is what we were witnessing, I would speculate that we were witnessing the bottom part of that helix. But I don't know. I've never. It's hard for my brain to conceptualize that. Um, and I'm sure there are other people who can relate. And that's kind of a weird concept to conceptualize, especially if you're a visualized person like myself. Um, I can't conceptualize that, but I think I'll humor it. I think it's interesting. But I do not think I could conceptualize something like that. It's a little too much for me, for my taste personally. But I do find it interesting. All right, here we go. Next part. The mechanics of gravity, levity, Earth's EMF, electromagnetic field, and the propagation of light. To fully comprehend the theory of how light behaves in the geocosmos. So, a little recap. We're talking about the geocosmos theory and their perception of the world and light and gravity and how it correlates to, excuse me. Okay, and we're back. And how the geocosmos theory correlates to the concave hollow earth theory, how they took both ideas and essentially put them together. So, um, okay, to fully comprehend the theory of how light behaves in the geocosmos, one must entertain the notion that the Earth's magnetic field and gravity are really opposite polarities of the same unified force. As above, so below. I'm just adding that in. But that correlates to the whole as above, so below. This force compounds itself through the envelope of the geocosm, i.e., the spherical area around the outside of the geocosmos within the crust. In other words, gravity or centripetal force, as Teed believed it to be, radiates out from the center of the cosmos through the Earth's concave crust, where it then compresses inside of the concave Earth's outer boundary, enveloped below the crust. Then, due to it being continuously flowing force, it therefore flows back outward to the surface at double the frequency as it has folded compressed against itself and becomes the Earth's Levick electromagnetic field, EMF. How this concept of gravity levity is relevant to the behavior of light in the geocosmos is that as the light reaches its resonance threshold of the EMF, it becomes compressed. Slow down with the fraction, causing an inverted compression of its wavelength within ratio of the Earth's EMF. A way to help visualize this, thank you, could really use some help with this, is to take an example of a blown up rubber glove. And how one can push the glove's fingers into the inside of the blown up glove, provided the air pressure isn't too high. Okay, I see what he's saying. However, this analogy is only outlining the path of light in its reality, in its constant flow from both the sun, moon, planets, stars, and other astrological phenomenon. This means that because one sees what's on the other end of the arcing rays of light, and that the path is also folding back on itself against the Earth's EMF, then focalizing back down toward the Earth before our eyes receive it. The optical information that our eyes receive of the EMF threshold light resonance layer is therefore reversed, similar to how the reflection of a spoon is upside down and slightly distorted depending on the angle one views it from. This accounts for unexplained phenomenon dubbed the moon illusion, of why objects in the sky look larger on the horizon than they do directly overhead. It also explains why one instead sees the sky dome horizon line as a concave dome illusion rather than a convexly implied display of concentric atmosphere void as one would expect it to appear. Thus, when one sees sun across below the horizon, what it would actually be doing is moving up and around into the zone of the SP's influence, where the circular paths of light progressively get pulled into the SP, and hence day becomes night. Abdelkader emphatically points out that both his and Einstein's concepts of properties of light are assumptions, as no one has proven either. Well, you may have to look into that in the future. The optical illusion of the Earth ball in space. Okay, let's hear this. This is where we hear some very, very interesting information that I find that I actually no, I didn't bring it to my mom's friend, but I did say to him, because we then briefly kind of touched light on NASA, and I was explaining to him, I was like, Werner von Braun, the dude, one, was a Nazi and ran NASA. And he was like, he didn't run NASA, and he's like, I mean, look it up, man. And he's like, well, he was head of operations and he ran the Apollo programs. Like, that's running NASA. That's what NASA did, bro. Not trying to be like I'm right or anything, because either way, the dude was a Nazi. He ran Hitler's rocket program. He did kill. Werner von Braun did kill Jews. He did have a scar on the side of his face from these fencing duels him and his other, Nazi crew would be doing. It's wild, man. It's wild. But, that's a whole nother story. Operation Paperclip. But the reason why I really am excited about this page in particular is mainly because of a couple things Werner von Braun says that tie into other things. So real quick, listen, I'm as I get older, I'm more open-minded, and that doesn't mean that I believe everything. It's more the sense that like I will humor ideas and concepts and just see, okay, where is this going? What does this mean? What's the angle? That's essentially what I mean by when I do that. Because when I'm talking about this, doesn't necessarily mean that I believe all this. I've never even heard of geocosmos until last night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, or this morning, I should say. So I'm not one to be like, oh, I know about this stuff. I don't. I just think it's interesting. But what I'm trying to get at is that Warner von Braun, one thing I thought was kind of funny when I was talking to my mom's friend was how like I brought up like, we got to take in consideration his ties to the occult, or what about the Nazi bell, and he was kind of humoring my talk, and I at the end of the night I told him thanks, humoring my wild side, but we can't act as if it truly has been all sorted out. One thing I was kind of bringing up to him was like, when I brought up about the moon landing being staged, it's like if I brought up like, have you ever seen the movie Wag the Dog? And he's like, well, no, but I know what it's about. And it's like, okay, so like, what makes you think that if our government, well, actually, no, I brought up the Gulf of Tonkin incident which sparked the Vietnam War, and I was like, if our government was willing to lie about that, what makes you think they wouldn't lie about other things? I mean, look what that did. That started a war. All right, that started a war, and I'm not gonna get all geopolitical right now, but it did start a war. And I think that is something that's really we have to think about. Is like, what makes you think that we can trust anything? If they're gonna lie about something crazy like that, what makes you think they can't lie about landing on the moon? But I don't know. I just think we gotta look at things from all different angles, be open minded about things, and do your own research. I'm not saying any of this is right. Like I said, I've never heard of geocosmos, although I do find it really interesting, and I might look a little bit more into it because I think it's kind of cool. I've never heard of it. And that's kind of the whole point of this, is that we're just, we're having interesting conversations, and we're just humoring these concepts and ideas, and I'm just providing my thoughts and speculations on them. So, back to this concave Earth slideshow that I put a lot of work into, as you can see. The optical illusion of the Earth ball in space. Alrighty. In October 1983 issue of Omni magazine inquired with HMS Coxter, a math professor of the University of Toronto, as to whether or not there was any way to prove we aren't living inside a hollow Earth. Coxter responded saying he couldn't think of any, and being an expert on any inversion geometry, went on to say a rocket flight, an eclipse, a Foucault pendulum, a Coriolis effect, any observation we make on the outside of the Earth has an exact duplicate version inside. There would be no way to tell which was the truth. The article continued to relay, just as geometry of space inverts, so do all laws of physics. Toward center of a hollow Earth, light slows down and everything shrinks. Atoms astronauts, spaceships, and measuring rods. Light travels in circular paths, producing some weird but lawful optical effects. Astronauts on the moon looked back on what they thought was a blue sphere in the distance. Actually, it was inside the Earth's shell, seen through sight lines that flared like the bell of a trumpet, producing the illusion of a sphere. The optical distortion is something like the wide-angle view through a fisheye lens. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. The German NASA astronaut, Nazi, and physicist Werner von Braun, let's not forget, speaks of this convex spherical illusion of our planet in the inner outer space of the concave Earth in one of his papers regarding optical illusions in space. He explains the process by which a photograph of the Earth ball, convex Earth, occurs, a potentially illusionary perception of which our arbitrary physical senses have led us to believe. Okay? So that is the head of NASA. Or, NASA's, spokesperson, their celebrity, their mascot. Even he's saying that us living on a ball is an illusion. So, and even he has claimed that, it'd be impossible to get through the van radiation belt. So, being open-minded as we are, we have to kind of think about, well, what does that mean? What are the possibilities that entails? And, why is it then that, you have, Werner von Braun in one of his papers saying that the photograph of the Earth ball is an illusion? It's like, okay, then what does that mean? What are we supposed to interpret from that? And I'm genuinely curious what people might think about that, because he was someone that was instrumental in our space program. He was also very instrumental in Hitler's space program. But if he is going to so casually put in one of his papers that, yeah, it's an illusion, us being on a ball, I mean, okay, what then? How are we as just, average people, how are we supposed to perceive that? We're being told, big old Neil deGrasse Tyson tells us, oh, we live on a planet, we live on a sphere. And then if you were to go and pull up Werner von Braun's paper, he'd be telling you, no, that's not true. And it ties into the whole hollow earth theory and what that could mean and what that could represent. Sorry, I got a little distracted. But regardless, I just think it's something that we should all just take a second and be like, what does that mean? What does that represent? Because I'm not saying that we really, truly, I don't really know. Like I said, I think that there is an interesting idea to the hollow earth theory. I think the concave Earth theory is cool, but this just takes a whole. This just takes it to a whole nother level that I was very unprepared for. Oh, but I think it's just so cool. Like, and I just think it's cool because it's like I said, the veil keeps on getting lifted, and these interesting ideas and concepts are just getting thrown out there, and then every now and then someone pulls out a book or some redacted papers from the CIA, and it's or emails from Hillary Clinton talking about you know the gravesite of Gilgamesh. It's like, wait, what? Why is she talking about and asking about the gravesite of Gilgamesh? You're like, and you hear me, and you're like, Ronan, what are you talking about? Go look it up. It's for real. You got to ask yourself these kind of questions, like, what's really going on? That in a future live stream, I'm going to talk about giants and how the Smithsonian has admitted to hiding, suppressing, and destroying giant bones that it has found throughout North America and the United States. So if they're willing in the Smithsonian, which is relegated by the government, if they're willing to destroy archaeological evidence that would go against the narrative, I mean, what makes you think that they wouldn't be so willing to suppress or hide the idea that we don't live on a round planet? Or it's just you know you you have to start questioning things, and I mean questioning things within reason, and using a level of critical thinking skills, and looking up things for yourself and being like, huh, that's interesting. What does this mean? Like this whole geocosmos, that's really interesting. I want to look up more about that. Like, is there anyone else talking about this? Like, what is it? Like, we have some idea about it, but like, I'm kind of curious more about it because I've never heard of that. And I think that's what's kind of fun about, you know, looking into these kind of things is you learn about new concepts and ideas, and maybe you might look into it and be like, okay, this is clearly full of doo doo. But hey, it was an interesting little journey to get there, and that's what I'm all about. So we kind of touched a little bit on the whole concept of the concave Earth theory, um, and now we're gonna touch on the next part. Give me one quick second. Okay, I have returned. Needed to check on my little Mexican and blow my nose. And actually, now I have to go back out and do something else real quick. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So, we talked about the concave Earth. Um, After digesting all of that, I think we can safely say we need to look a little more into that, into this whole geocosmos. Granted, I do think it is a interesting concept, and anyone out there listening right now or listening to the replay, if you have time, do a little dive into this geocosmos and let me know what you think, because I am curious if anyone else out there finds it interesting. But okay, so we're going to talk about the hollow earth. Is it hollow? Now, ow, just ran over my toe. Now, I personally have always found the hollow earth theory very, very, very entertaining. Mainly because, there's some really interesting ancient stories about it from past civilizations. I'll next time I'll try to get some of those stories, but we are going to read 3 chapters from let's see if I can get the name of the book. Oof. Or maybe just 1 chapter. We'll see. What is that? Okay. Where am I going? Here. Thank you. Okay. Let me see where the name of this book is called. Okay, so this book was by Dr. W.R. Bernard, B.A.M.A. Ph.D. The author is deceased and the publishing company defunct, so rights are not reserved. Just putting that out there for the footnote. So I'm gonna read this. I didn't bother to grab this little thing, but Okay, so the name of the book is The Hollow Earth, the greatest geographical discovery in history made by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, in the mysterious land beyond the poles. I'm going to read this real quick to you. Widely read and reprinted many times, Raymond Bernard's book is considered by many to be the definite treatise on the hollow earth theory. The book purports that the earth has a hollow and habitable interior with a small sun in place of a molten core. Ooh. And is inhabited by a race of superhumans who are the descendants of the exiled residents of the long lost continents of Alaska and Lemuria. Bernard claimed that the true North and South Poles had not yet been discovered, and that in their place are concave openings to the inner Earth. Bernard quotes several diary entries and radio accounts by explorer Admiral Richard E. Byrd as being definitive proof for his theory that travel to the Earth's interior was possible. Bernard claims that Byrd's 1947 and 1956 expeditions took him beyond the poles into a land of lush green vegetation. Bernard also popularized the theory that Atlantean inner Earth beings invented flying saucers, or Vimanas, if you've ever read the Hindu story. Oh God, I can't even. My brain fart right there and then. Earth beings invented flying saucers, or Vimanas, many years ago, and were now visiting our realm. From the original book cover copy for the book revealed the underground world of supermen discovered under the North Pole. Okay, now, before we get into the journal entries, we're gonna read a little article by Vice News. And we're gonna see what Vice News has to say about the Hollow Earth theory. Now, I think personally what Vice News has to say is kind of interesting. And it's kind of funny because you wouldn't expect Vice News to write an article like this, but it came out back in the day, back in 2017. So, the article is called A Journey to the Center of Modern Hollow Earth Theory. The flat earthers are obviously wrong. The world is a sphere and it's hollow. So we're going to see what that is all about. I see we got 2 people watching right now. If you can, please feel free to hit the like button. That would be greatly appreciated. Now, back to this article. Okay, let's get out of that. All right. Conspiracy theorists get a bad rap these days. and rightfully so. Oh, this was written in 2017. Oh, how the times have changed. But it wasn't always the case. I remember it wasn't all that long ago, back when I was working night shift in an oil patch. We would kill time by turning on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, or Norrie. Yep, good show. Very interesting person. If you haven't heard his show, uh, it can turn even the blandest radio talk radio into a fantasy wonderland. It's almost innocent in a way that has been lost to maniacs on YouTube ranting about racist conspiracies and how putting things in water can turn the frogs gay. Ooh. Remember, this was written in 2017, so it is a little outdated, but it did turn out that they were putting things in the water that were messing with frogs' hormones and incidentally turning them gay. But that's neither here or there. Um, but regardless, um, all right, here we go. One night, a little over half a decade ago, while dicking around with my fellow workers, I remember hearing something far fetched, even for coast to coast, a hollow Earth theorist. The man, whose name I can't remember, spoke of another world that exists within ours. Down there, there was another sun, beautiful valleys, a lost tribe of Israel or two, and dinosaurs. Okay, I've never heard of the whole lost tribe of Israel being inside the planet. That's news to me, and we're not gonna go down that route. Yeah, but the dinosaurs. Okay, I can humor that. That I can get into. And the other sun, that I've heard of. Now these I'm assuming are. Now it says at the below the pictures, on the left hand side you got giant mushrooms, and on the right you got elephants and prehistoric animals. And below it says two of the original illustrations by Edward Rio and Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth. Okay, yes, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this must be a reference to that classic story. All right. Frankly, if there is another world outside ours, among us wouldn't want to abandon the shithole. Excuse me, the shithole we're currently inhabiting in favor of this glorious underworld. So, in a desperate bid to escape the hell of modern society, I decided to dive deep into the rich history of Hollow Earth theorists and talk to a few people who have this belief today. Now, these theories are numerous and typically long winded affairs, meaning, under the threat of death from my editor, I can't cover them all. Luckily, if you're thirsty for more on the Hollow Earthers, Will Storr wrote a hell of a long form summation of the theories history of the independent, including more coast to coast glory. So why don't we start with Cliff Notes' version of Hollow Earth? I think that's a marvelous idea. The godfather of the movement is Edmund Halley of Halley's Comet fame. The 17th century scientist proposed that the Earth was hollow and the outermost crust, which is where we call home, is about 500 miles thick and has rings beneath it. The Earth, Halley proposed, kinda looked like a dartboard when looking at it dissected. He got this idea from the irregular readings compasses get near the poles. So he proposed the inner worlds are what is messing with the Earth's magneticism. Interesting. And what I think is kind of interesting about that, just a quick to kind of jump off of that, it kind of reminds me of the Recot structure in North Africa. Is it in North Africa? I know it's in Africa. I know that, which has concentric circles. And there's Bright Insight Jimmy. Shout out to his channel. He has a great videos on how that could possibly be Atlantis. But I just think it's kind of interesting the whole concept of concentric circles, and if it was what we were reading earlier was talking about Atlanteans living inside the Earth, and if they were to, let's say, live in concentric circles, in a city of concentric circles, that'd be pretty interesting. And let's say some of them got kicked out and went to Africa, and then you had the Recot structure, and that became a new Atlantis. I don't know. I'm just having fun right now with the idea. So just humor me with me for this a little wild ride. But I just think it's kind of interesting just to think about that. So let's keep scrolling down. So here it is. Here's the concentric circles. This is Halley's initial idea updated. So you got the so at the top part, see where you have the yellow sun. So that's the spherical surface sun. And then you have the surface world. You have the lithosphere, which is a mantle, the inner gravitational limit, and then you have the hollow earth interior world. And then you have the material inner earth, and then you have in the middle with the line, the unit speed boundary between motion is space and motion in time. So inner earth, material, cosmic inner earth, Agartha. Inverse interior world, Tartarus. Inner cosmic gravitational limit, cosmic lithosphere mantle. As above, so below. Put on your tinfoil hats, tying off your kufis, whatever you want. There's some interesting connections there. Which, actually, you know what? It kind of ties into a picture that I had in my slideshow presentation that I made. Let me go back to that real quick. Yeah. Because there's one last slide that I had. Oh shit. Well, for anyone who's just catching in, earlier I talked about the concave. And it looks like I missed a piece, but I don't speak German, so we're just gonna go by that. Hold on. Interesting. We'll have to come back to the concave Earth theory, but I think more so. I think I might do a more in-depth look into this whole geo-cosmic theory, because I think it's kind of interesting. And I apologize that I didn't go all the way through the slides. Check out this little piece, but it's okay. But I wanted to show you this picture. So if you can see this picture, when we looked at the other one, we had like the concentric rings, and each ring was kind of telling you each layer, whether it was from the surface or from inverse. So the reason why I kind of wanted to pull up this one, because I thought it was kind of interesting, because if you look at it, you can just kind of have sit at it and look at it for a glance and kind of have fun with it. But you look to the if you look to the right corner, where it says the Pyramid of Giza, and then you have what looks like a passageway under the Pyramid of Giza that goes all the way into inner Earth, which is kind of interesting. Um, but it's funny because it kind of ties. I was hoping to see maybe Turkey would be on here, but in Turkey there are these massive underground cities with ventilation systems, an area for storing livestock and food, and they don't really know who made uh, these cities. And there's many of them. There's some even in Ireland. Maybe I'll do a live stream talking about those because I also think they're pretty fascinating. But I do think here it's funny at the bottom where it says Rainbow City. I know some people would love to live there. And you look at the top to the left, it says spaceship base to and from other galaxies. um, oh, well, hey, remember I was talking about people who lived underground? And you got this cave city of semi advanced race um, over near to the left side where Brazil is. And, oh, it's cool here at the bottom. It even has like you have the plastic basalt, you have basalt, granite, sediment. So it kind of tells you each layer that you're looking at. Um, but I just think it's kind of interesting. Um, this whole idea of the hollow earth, and then that there's an entire a central sun inside it. And if you think about it, so if we were to kind of go back to what the Vice article was talking about, at the top of the picture where it says Agartha and then you see clouds, that would be considered the North Pole. And we'll jump back to the Vice article because they do show the North Pole and they show something very interesting in regards to the North Pole. So we'll scroll back down. But if you remember the picture, um, so I think, what's kind of interesting here is that as you get closer and closer, somewhere between, inner gravitational mantle limit and the hollow earth interior world would probably be, or actually, no, it says here in the bottom, it would be, Agartha would be in the cosmic side. So I don't know. It's interesting to me. I know it's a lot, but it's fun to just kind of entertain this idea. But let's keep on reading. The idea kind of festered in that state for around a century, only receiving some minor additions. The next massive update came at the start of the 1800s when a soldier and scholar named John Clevis Summers, I don't know, John Jr. proposed that there were several entrances to the hollow earth. Alrighty. 1800s now, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. And I quote from John Jr. I declare the earth is hollow and habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres, one within the other, and that it is open at the poles 12 or 16 degrees. I pledge my life in support of this truth, and I am ready to explore the hollow, if the world will support and aid me in undertaking, he wrote in 1818. Okay. Moving towards the 20th century, the idea lost a little bit of steam when it was essentially debunked for the first time by some meddling scientists, as these theories often do. However, Hollow Earth managed to carry on. The theory was still around, yes, but it was essentially taken over by the science fiction community. Think of the story Journey to the Center of the Earth, or like land of the lost. Blah, blah, blah. Authors like Verne and William R. Bradshaw thrust an inhabitable vision of the internal world into the mind of the public. This idea coagulated with Halley and Syme's ideas into a hybrid idea that persists to this day. Now, this picture, which I find to be a bit interesting and compelling, is this remarkable photo taken by the ESSA satellite on November 23rd, 1968. There is almost no cloud cover. The ice field on the surface can be observed, and the hole at the North Pole can be clearly seen. A photo taken by the ESSA 7 satellite that Hollow Earth theorists believe prove their claims of a polar opening. So I kind of think it's funny the way they kind of worded that. Because the way I perceive it in my mind is that you you essentially have a satellite image taken of the North Pole in 1968 that shows a giant hole in the North Pole, and I like how at the bottom it's like, Hollow Earth theorists believe this proves their claims of a polar opening. Now, I have seen these photos in other videos presented. Other people have talked about it. So I think it's interesting. I think there might be something to it personally. But let's continue on with this article. The theories range, but a typical description of what modern-day hollow earthers believe is that the interior consists of multiple environments, which are punctuated with exotic and extinct animals, and sometimes aliens. And many of the theories, there are inner world inhabitants are either super advanced or have achieved some form of utopia. Others say that the world has been colonized by missing explorers. In almost all theories, the inner worlds are presented as strongly superior to ours. It's not surprising that some still clutch to Hollow Earth theory because, for many, modern theories have a religious bent to them. In these theories, it is typically put forward that the lost tribes of Israel inhabit the Hollow Earth. An author by the name of Rodney Clough wrote in his 2008 book, Our Living Hollow Earth, that the tribes were taken to the Hollow Earth, which is where, luckily enough, heaven and hell are also located. I mean, if you kind of look at Dante's Inferno and you look at that, I mean, it's like he doesn't seem like he's leaving Earth. Even if you look at, look at even in Greek mythology, like when you're going to the underworld, like you're like, you die on Earth, but then you go down. So, whether or not that means that, if heaven and earth are inside the planet, that I don't know, but it is an interesting kind of concept and idea to think about. In order to understand his ideas a little better, I rang up Clough to chat. He told me that he came to the theory as a young man when he was introduced to the book by Raymond Bernard called The Hollow Earth. This set Clough off on a journey of analyzing scientific, spiritual, and historical evidence, from which he believes he found proof that the Earth and most bodies in space are hollow. Furthermore, Clough believes without any doubt that there is another sun in the center of the Earth, and there are people who inhabit the Earth's core. Okay. This, all right. So we're gonna read something. This old transcript. Among those aboard the U-209 was an old friend, one Carl Unger. I received his communication sometime after the war had ended. I know it was genuine as I knew his handwriting very well. The approximate English translation of Carl's letter is as follows: Dear old comrade, this news will be a surprise for you. The U-209 um, Unterseeboot made it. The earth is hollow. Dr. Huschfer and Hess were right. The whole crew is well, but they cannot come back. We are no prisoners. I am sure this news will reach you. It is the last connection with the U-boat 209. We'll meet again, comrade. I am worried for everyone who has to spend his life on the surface of the earth since the fewer since the fewer since God since Hitler is gone. God bless our Germany always. With hearty greetings. Okay, so this ties into, and I think I might wrap this live stream up because I've been going for a minute. But this will actually tie into the next part that we're going to do about. We're going to continue doing this series, and it ties into Admiral Byrd. But let's continue reading this. Okay, the Germans are some of the people that live in the Hollow Earth, the refugees from World War II, the Viking colonists from Greenland. Clough told Vice. Obviously, there has to be some Inuit down there because whenever they were asked where they came from, they would point north and say they were from the land where the sun never goes down. It is it is not easy being a hollow earther, according to Clough. The numbers of true believers has been slowly going down. This most likely comes from the fact that conspiracy theories have become plentiful as of late. While Hollow Earth has the old school vibe, few theories can battle its longevity. It's just not as sexy or timely as some of the conspiracies you'll find on, say, InfoWars. Who wants to search for an internal world when you can rally against a president setting up FEMA death camps in parking lots, or to try to expose a child sex trafficking ring is being run out of a basement of a DC pizzeria? There exists no real place for Hollow Earthers to organize and recruit as they don't have massive forums on the subject. They've been left behind by time. Clough told me that the group typically talks to each other through emails and that they do have a presence on YouTube. However, when the group wanders into forums like Godlike Productions or other conspiracy sites, they can have trouble playing well with others. They're often made fun of by people who subscribe to cooler theories. Yes, if you were wondering, there is a hierarchy among conspiracy theories. To cap it off, there exists some friction with the flat earthers who have become hot as hell as of late because each theory makes the other redundant. Flat earthers are obviously wrong. The world is a sphere and it's hollow, said Clough. I don't think flat earthers don't have a leg to stand on, but I respect their opinion. I don't like making fun of people. I can appreciate and respect that. While their momentum may be slowing, the old guard of conspiracy theorists persists. Clough told me that he has either seen evidence or talked to over 10 people that have made their way to the inner earth. This includes a German U-boat operator and an admiral who flew his plane into polar openings into the hollow earth. Clough hasn't been inside himself, but that's not for a lack of trying. For centuries, intrepid Hollow Earthers have been looking for entrances to the center, some even claiming they've made it. This is a quest that is ongoing to this day. Oh, look. Oh, this is back in 2007 to 2000. Yeah, look at that. All the way back in 2007, they had a voyage to the Hollow Earth. That's interesting. The most prominent of modern day journeys was the proposed voyage to the Hollow Earth, which was set to take place in 2007. Clough and other theorists were certain of its success that they even built an itinerary for their trip. Oh, an itinerary. Oh, excuse me. The voyage cost around 20 grand to take part in and was supposed to take place in 2007 from June 26th to July 19th, setting off from Moscow on their third day. The first 2 days are for traveling and sightseeing. On the fourth day, they were to fly to Murmansk, Russia, where they would board a Russian icebreaker and make their way toward the North Pole. Once they arrived on the ninth day, they would spend the days, 3 days, searching for the opening. It gets a little eccentric past this point. From here on out, they would travel up Hikadel River to the city of Jau before taking a monorail trip to the city of Eden to visit the palace of the king of the inner world. What's so funny was when I first heard it gets a little eccentric past this point. From here on out, they would travel the Hidalkel River in the city of Jau. I'm thinking to myself, like, there's a place like that called in the North Pole? Like, I'm thinking, like, there's a place like that in the North Pole called that? And then it's like, oh, okay, they're talking about inside the planet. Like, they had, like she said, they said they had an itinerary. I wonder if the itinerary came with a map. What do you got to do for food and beverages? Do they have a buffet? What are we doing here? Do they have credits? Okay, after spending their time in Eden, they would make their trip home. If, God forbid, they didn't find the entrance, they did have a backup plan. Oh, they had a backup plan. Okay. Please know that if we were unable to find the polar opening, we will be returning via the new Siberian islands to visit skeleton remains of exotic animals thought to originate from inner Earth. Reads a note at the bottom of the itinerary. Okay. Sadly, the planning the expedition never worked out. One of their leaders, Steve Curry, died of brain cancer. Oh, that's sad. Explained Clough. The bad luck continued. According to Clough, another leader was killed. What? After his plane flew into a mountain, and the third had to pull out because the largest investor in his company threatened to pull funding if the man didn't walk away from his Hollow Earth beliefs. The group has attempted a few more voyages, but the plans just keep unraveling. That said, Clough isn't opposed to another attempted voyage. They just need a leader. It couldn't be him, though, he said. He's an author, not an adventurer. Okay. If that doesn't tell you, just put on your tinfoil hat for this for a little bit. It almost seems, right? Okay, so I don't know the medical history behind Mr. Curry, but isn't it crazy, right? Just as they were about to follow through, right? Mr. Curry dies of brain cancer. Another leader was killed after his plane flew into a mountain. And the third had to pull out because his largest investor would pull out of his company if he didn't pull away from his Hollow Earth beliefs. So that tells me that is 110% suspect. But that is kind of weird. Talk about bad luck. I don't know if it's bad luck or coincidences or part of the plan. All right. There are people out there. There are tons of people who have expressed interest in this expedition. If we can get it off the ground, said Clough. I don't think there is a whole lot of people out there. Certainly not in the millions, but maybe in the thousands. Well, sign me up for the next expedition because, goddamn it, if I wouldn't trade the modern day world for some lost tribes, Vikings, and dinosaurs, with all the hyper partisan bullshit flying around these days, it's hard to remember that one time these theories were popular because they spoke directly to your inner child and not your inner asshole. Oh, that's funny. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude this first part of our Hollow Earth theory. Um, I have to say, the reason why I'm going to conclude it here is because we are nearing 2 hours, and I was going to read some chapters from a book, but when I was skimming through some of the stuff earlier that was written, I could see myself going off on little rants and tangents about some of the information that was being spoken. So I think I'll save that for another time. Um, but if you are listening now, or if you've made it this far and you are listening to the replay, please share your thoughts and comments down below. Please hit the like button. Just to let everyone know, Lounge Ronin, we talk about, as it says, all things, everything. So it's not always going to be, about Hollow Earth or things like that. It might be about, some of the TV shows I really like, or, things like that. So I don't want people to think that, we're going to just be talking about all sorts of crazy, wild stuff all the time. We're going to, balance it out. Last time I talked about the pyramids. This time we're talking about Hollow Earth. Who knows what next time we'll be talking about. Bless you, Pablo. That's Pablo, my little guy. So yeah, we're just gonna keep it, keep it cool and like that. And these are things that I find interesting. If you notice, bless you. If you notice, I haven't said that I wholeheartedly believe in one thing or the other. These are just concepts and ideas that I think are fun to kind of humor and talk about because, let's be honest, there is a lot of interesting evidence to prove that some of these things are true and some of them that there isn't. But I'm not here to tell you what to believe and how to believe. I'm just here to engage your mind to new ideas and perspectives and to let you make the decisions on your own because I can't make the decisions for you. But at the same time, I also think it's kind of fun to talk about these things because it's also just a change of scenery, as the author in the article put, from all the craziness that's going on right now. We have so much crazy stuff going on in the world right now that I think it's kind of fun and lighthearted to talk about these concepts and ideas because I never knew about geocosmos until, like I said earlier today, and I think that's a cool idea. Let's look more into it. I wonder, are there any notable scientists who have talked about it? And that's what's kind of cool about these ideas and concepts is whether or not it's right or wrong. It's about, in my opinion, it's about, is there data to back it up? Are there coincidences? Is there evidence? Whether it's tiny or substantial. I mean, it's all out there. I mean, even that photo that we looked at that showed a literal hole in the middle of the North Pole that was taken by a satellite in the 1960s. And yeah, technology wasn't super advanced back then, but the fact that we had a satellite up there that took that picture, I think is well enough to be like, what does that mean? And that's kind of really my whole thing, is just like to throw these ideas out there and be like, huh, that's interesting. What does that mean? Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it's more of like, what do these ideas mean? And, do people talk a lot about it? Because I'm the kind of person, right, where like because I look for patterns. I'm big on patterns. I have an analytical mind, and I'm big on patterns. So if I see a pattern, because at first it goes like, huh, is that a coincidence? And then you start seeing like patterns. You start seeing connecting dots. You're like, okay, this isn't a coincidence. There's something here. And that's how my mind goes. And if I start seeing patterns, then I start realizing, okay, there is clearly some data here. There's clearly an agenda. There's clearly something being planned or orchestrated. And that's why at the beginning of the stream, when I brought up, you know, the Gulf of Tonkin incident in relation to the moon landing being staged, is because why is it out of the realm of possibility? I mean, they're right around the same time. So why would it be out of the realm of possibility for our own government, if our own government is so willing to stage a military incident to push us into a war, why can we not believe the possibility that that we would stage the moon landing to undermine Russia? And all I'm just saying is that we have to kind of take those kind of things into consideration about what is possible and what is not possible, and the extent people are willing to go to hide certain truths. I mean, look at the extents that, a little kid will go through, from, hiding the fact that he ate, the last donut, or that he hid the cookies, things like that. Or, someone who is stepping outside of their marriage or relationship, or someone who's stealing from their job. We the lies and the hiding that people will do, to hide evidence, whatever, prosecuting lawyers, you name it. So in my mind, it's like, okay, if they're willing to fake an incident to lead into war, there you can't this you cannot reject the idea that they would not stage the moon landing, or stage, if you don't believe that nuclear bombs are real. There are people out there that don't believe they're real. So they believe that they staged all of that. That's all up for interpretation. I'm not saying that they staged nuclear bombs, but I'm just saying that, like, if they're willing to lie, to push certain agendas, to, these psyops, or whatever you want to call it, to the extent to suppress people's freedom of thought, or to push, geopolitical, moves and ideals, or whatever it is. It's like, we have to be open-minded to that. And that, it's entirely possible that, they're lying about this, they're lying about that. And we're learning very right now in real time how much they're lying about so many things. And I'm not even gonna get into all of it, because I don't feel like getting my channel in trouble, and I don't know enough to really make enough claims, and I'm just gonna be smart. But all I'm just saying is, like, if Werner von Braun is gonna have a paper and say that it's an illusion that we live on a sphere, and he is the dude who planned, the Apollo missions. I mean, what are you supposed to take with that information? If, just like the image I showed you from 1968 of the hole above the North Pole, what are we supposed to take with that information? Real quick, before I head off, I'm gonna leave you with a quick little story. So there's this book series. I never read part 1, but I read part 2, and it's called Millennial Hospitality. It's an amazing book. It's the book that kind of got me really into UFOs and extraterrestrials. Like, I always had an interest in it, but this book made me like, holy smokes, there's something to it. and I will tell you why, okay? I'm not going to go off onto my rant. I'm going to get to the quick straight part. So in the book, right, he puts the coordinates of where the hangars for the UFO ships are in Nevada. All right, he puts the coordinates in the book. He's like, here it is. Go look it up. Go there, right? So I take the coordinates, I put them into Google Earth, and I will never forget this day. I will never forget this moment because it made me realize, okay, you can go on Google Earth. People have caught their spouses cheating on them on Google Earth. People have seen car accidents happen literally in real time through Google Earth. All sorts of people have seen bodies, have found murders through Google Earth. Okay? I type in the coordinates in the book for where the spaceship hangars are. You know what happens? Google tells me they don't have permission to show me this area. I was shocked. I didn't know. I was like, huh? So I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean? So I literally put in the coordinates for Area 51. You can damn well walk around the damn hangars if you wanted to. And here's the best part about it. The coordinates that I put in, they're from a national park. Why would Google not have authorization to let me see a national park? Ask yourselves, what's really going on? I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. You'll catch me streaming on Wednesdays, in the afternoons, and in the late evenings. I'm still working out the kinks of the schedule, but I'm working on being more efficient and putting out more content. So I hope everyone has had a happy, Merry Christmas. And I hope you guys got all the gifts you needed or all the coal you deserved. Stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.